Alrighty, well, Justice League War. Now, before I say anything about the movie, I I realize I'm very late on this, but this film was dedicated to Dwayne McDuffie, who tragically passed away due to complications from heart surgery shortly after writing this movie. So, condolences, and once and once again, in case I have said this before, Dwayne McDuffie is a very talented writer, or was a very talented writer. He created some really entertaining stories, and surely the comic book community and any fan of the superhero genre will probably not forget his work anytime soon. So enough with the heavy. So Justice League Doom. Now, the plot of this one is that Vandal Savage forms the Legion of Doom with Bane, Cheetah, Malefic, Mirror Master, and Metallo, and he steals some plans off of Batman's computer. And it turns out Batman actually had contingency plans to stop each member of the Justice League in case any one of them went rogue. Vandal Savage steals these and commissions each member of the Legion of Doom to take out one member of the Justice League using these elaborate plans. So that's the basic gist. The Justice League in this movie being comprised of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Cyborg. So, the thing that drew me to this movie immediately, right off the bat, right when it was announced, was the fact that so many of the crew, the cast and crew from the Justice League cartoon series, were returning to their roles. Or not just the Justice League cartoon series, the DC animated universe in general. Because we got Tim Daly as Superman, Kevin Conroy as Batman, Nathan Fillion as Hal Jordan, Susan Eisenberg as Wonder Woman, Carl Lumbly as Green Lantern, and Michael Rosenbaum as the Flash. So, and again, we got Dwayne McDuffie writing it. So immediately, I was sold on the concept, and also the plot of the movie sounded pretty interesting. It's based on. Sorry about this. I have to check what this thing is based on. It is based on Mark Waid's Justice League Tower of Babel. And apparently, okay, never mind. I'll get to that in a second. What do I think of this movie? Well, I'm gonna compare it to Justice League Crisis on Two Earths for a second. In terms of script, it kills me to say this, but in terms of script, Justice League Doom is inferior to Crisis on Two Earths. But in terms of basically everything else, the action scenes, the animation, the voice acting, it is superior. Justice League Doom is better in all those other departments, while Crisis on Two Earths is better in the script departments. Now, is this a bad script? No. No, it's not a bad script, but it has some major plot holes and some major moronic moments. But what do I like about this movie? Well, the fact that it feels like a Justice League episode. And that's not to say it doesn't feel cinematic, but I'm just talking about the dynamic between the characters and the atmosphere. It feels like an episode of the Justice League TV series from the early 2000s. So, can't go wrong there. I suppose you can, but And the important thing is they don't. The voice acting is phenomenal. All of these actors who have previously played these characters fit comfortably back into their roles. Tim Daly, Kevin Conroy, Carl Lumbly. All of these guys are still fantastic as these characters. All of these guys, in my opinion, are perfectly cast. Well, that's kind of a contradiction of an earlier statement I made about Christopher Meloni being probably my favorite Hal Jordan, but Nathan Fillion is still an excellent Hal Jordan. So with that said, another bit of credit I want to give is to Michael Rosenbaum, because in the original cartoon series he played the Wally West version of Flash, who is more lighthearted and juvenile. He's more comedic, whereas here he plays the Barry Allen Flash, the older Flash. You can still sense Michael Rosenbaum's wit shining through, but the fact that he is so easily able to switch between characters like this, and you can still tell it's the same hero, but I don't know. Rosenbaum just does a good job portraying Barry Allen and Wally West. So in addition to them, we also have Carl Lumbly playing a dual role as Malafa Ak. He's basically like this zombie-like doppelganger of Martian Manhunter. We have Claudia Black as Cheetah, Wonder Woman's nemesis. We have Olivia Dabo as Star Sapphire, who is Hal Jordan's ex-love interest and nemesis. We have Phil Morris as Vandal Savage. Bumper Robinson as Cyborg. We have Paul Blackthorne as Metallo. I mean, all these guys lend so much personality to roles. Well, Phil Morris has played Vandal Savage before, so I can't really count him. He does a good job, though. But all these guys, for being new to these characters, all do an excellent job of coming up with their own dynamic and coming up with so much personality for characters that could have just been so boring and so stock. I mean, these just could have been a group of boring villains, but instead, when you get guys like Claudia Black and Bumper Robinson as Cyborg's not a villain. But when you get Claudia Black, when you get Paul Blackthorne, they lend so much. It's like they were made to. It's like they've been voicing these characters for years. There was a real sense of comfort in the voice acting. I mean, you can tell that these actors fit these characters like a glove. And another little shout out I'd like to give is to Bumper Robinson. Now, the voice for Cyborg that I normally gravitate towards is Carrie Payton from Teen Titans. However, Bumper Robinson is, in my opinion, right up there with him. I can honestly imagine either one of these guys as Cyborg. I mean, there's just a real, genuine sense of likability in Cyborg here. I mean, maybe it's because he's the newcomer to the group. Maybe it's just because he's one of the key reasons why the Justice League makes it out of this situation okay. I don't know, but I really like him. He pulls off the naivety of Cyborg when he's dealing with the Justice League, but also he has a real sense of intelligence, this kind of cocky intelligence that I think the character of Cyborg needs to have. So, all around, voice acting is great. Now, what doesn't work about the movie? Well, the villain. I mean, I praised Phil Morris as Vandal Savage, and again, he does a good job. But as far as I've heard, the original comic book had Ra's al Ghul in his place, and they changed the character to Vandal Savage for this movie. Um, why? I mean, I don't mean to insult fans of Vandal Savage, but how would he know that Batman has these contingency plans to take down the Justice League? How would he know where Batman lives? I, I just don't know how. I just don't see how he would have this knowledge. And even his plan, his ultimate plan, when you finally learn what it is, honestly seems like a plan that Ra's al Ghul would come up with. I and like I said, Phil Morris does a good job, but I don't know. I just didn't really like. I didn't dislike the villain, but he seemed kind of weak in comparison to everything else. Um, I also don't really like his design. I mean, again, upon hearing his origin story in this movie, upon hearing where he came from and how he got to be this evil overlord, I understand why he looks the way he does. But he looks like something out of Planet of the Apes. I mean, he honestly, I found it pretty distracting how he looks like this ape man. Um, uh, it didn't quite take me out of the movie because it's not that bad, but again, in comparison to everything else, I just found it kind of a little bit of a stretch. Another thing, why, dear God, why do each of the villains, upon activating these contingency protocols, just leave the individual league members to their fates? Why do none of them finish the job? I mean, they have failed at killing these guys how many times at this point? And now that they've got them completely at their mercy, they just walk away and leave them alive. How stupid are these people? Oh my god. And I understand why they did this, because you can't have the Justice League die. You have to have them get out of the situation somehow, but I wish they had come up with something a little more plausible than, oh, the villains just walk away. The villains are just so arrogant and confident in their own victories that they just kind of walk away without actually seeing if they finish the job. It seemed like a pretty moronic move to me. But and that's kind of what I was getting at with the problems with the script, is that there are plot holes and flaws in logic that prevent this from being as tightly written as Crisis on Two Earths. It's also not as thought-provoking. This is primarily an action movie, whereas Crisis on Two Earths actually aspired to be something a little bit more than that. With the character of Owlman and his theories about the multiple dimensions and whatnot. But here, this is, like I said, it functions like an episode of Justice League. Again, not a bad thing. It's just in comparison to Crisis on Two Earths, from a screenwriting perspective, it kind of falls a bit short. But it is still an enjoyable flick. Like I said, the voice acting is phenomenal. These actors have genuine, very believable chemistry with each other. The animation and the action scenes are fantastic. You never get bored with this action. Not once. This action is animated in such an entertaining way and in such a kinetic way that, and they use it sparingly enough that like I said, you never get bored. The action never overshadows the characters, and that's one thing I will have to give the script for this, is that the characters always come first. But again, it's just those flaws in logic and the baffling switch from the character of Ra's al Ghul to Vandal Savage, a move that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, that really hold this back from being as great as it could have been. But overall, it was a very enjoyable flick. I don't really know how many non-fans are going to gravitate towards this, but again, if you're not a fan of Justice League, I'm not really sure why you would be watching this movie. I mean, if you are not a fan of these characters, then you're kind of asking to be lost when you pick up a movie called Justice League Doom. And to the movie's credit, they do a good job of abiding by that old rule: show don't tell. Because judging from what each of the League members accomplishes in battle and how each of them use their powers, you get a pretty good idea of what each member of the Justice League can do. So, yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun. I mean, in terms of enjoyable popcorn entertainment, it's right up there with Public Enemies, in my opinion. Great voice acting, great action, great dynamic between the characters, and the flaws in the script don't do a whole lot to dampen the overall experience. They are noticeable, but they don't destroy the overall finished package, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I recommend this. Like I said, it's a good time. And if you're just looking for a good time with these characters, which are beautifully realized here, then you will be happy with this. But if you're looking for anything deeper than that, or if you're looking for the perfect adaptation of this comic book story arc with a fantastic villain in Ra's al Ghul, then you might be a little disappointed. I don't think you'll hate it, but it, like I said, it's not quite as great as it could have been. So take that for what it's worth.